Jake Turner first noticed her 3 days ago at the space station market where humans and aliens traded goods from across the galaxy. She stood near the fruit vendor watching him with eyes that shimmered like liquid silver, her blue skin caught, the artificial sunlight making her look like she was made of sapphires. She was beautiful in that strange way. Aliens often were to human eyes, but something about her constant presence made Jake nervous. He tried to ignore her at first, thinking maybe she was just another curious alien who had never seen a human up close. The station got visitors from hundreds of different worlds, and humans were still relatively new to space travel compared to the older races. But this felt different. She was not just looking, she was studying him. Jake worked as an engineer on the lower decks of the station, fixing everything from air recyclers to cargo loaders. It was honest work and paid well enough to send money back to his sister on Earth. The station, called Harmony Point, was one of the few places where all species could trade and meet peacefully. It floated in neutral space between 3 major alien territories. On the second day, Jake saw her again. This time she stood outside the repair shop, where he worked. Her tall figure wrapped in flowing white robes that marked her as Zilani, one of the older alien races that had been traveling the stars long before humans left Earth. The Zilani were known for their advanced technology and their mysterious ways, but they rarely showed interest in individual humans. Jake tried to focus on his work, but he could feel her eyes on him through the shop window. When he looked up, she did not turn away or pretend to be doing something else. She just kept watching. Her face showed no expression that Jake could read. Alien faces were always hard to understand, especially the Zilani, who did not smile or frown like humans did. His coworker Danny noticed too. "Who is your new friend?" he asked, pointing at the window with his wrench. "No idea," Jake replied. "She has been following me since yesterday." Danny whistled low. "Maybe she likes you. Some aliens find humans attractive, you know, like exotic pets." Jake threw a dirty rag at him. "She is Zilani. They do not keep pets, and they definitely do not date outside their species." Still, Danny said, "You should be careful. The Zilani are powerful. If one of them is interested in you, it could be good or really bad." That night, Jake took a different route back to his quarters. He went through the busy entertainment district where crowds of different species mixed in bars and game halls. He figured he could lose her in the crowd. But when he stopped to look back, she was there 20 feet behind him, moving through the crowd like water. Every morning when Jake left his quarters to work at the engineering deck, she was there. She never spoke, just watched from a distance. She never came closer than 10 feet. But she never let him out of her sight either. Jake started to feel like prey being stalked by a predator. But the Zilani were not known for violence. They were scholars and scientists, not hunters. On the third day, Jake ate lunch in the human section of the food court, hoping she would not follow him there. Some aliens avoided the human areas because the food smells made them sick. But she appeared at a table across the room drinking something purple from a tall glass. Her silver eyes never left him. Jake's friend. Lisa joined him at his table. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks, Jake," muttered, pushing his food around his plate. "There is this alien woman who has been following me everywhere." Lisa looked around and spotted the Zilani. "Oh wow, she is beautiful. Is she dangerous?" Jake shrugged. "I do not think so, but it is creeping me out. She never talks, just watches. Maybe she needs help," Lisa suggested. "Some aliens do not understand human social rules. Maybe she thinks this is how you make friends." Jake had not thought of that, but it still did not explain why she picked him out of the 1,000 humans on the station. That evening, Jake decided to test something. He went to the observation deck, where huge windows showed the stars outside. It was his favorite place to think and relax. The deck was empty, except for a few couples watching the nebula that glowed pink and orange in the distance. He sat on a bench and waited. Sure enough, 5 minutes later she appeared. She stood by another window pretending to look at the stars, but Jake could see her reflection watching him in the glass. On the 4th day, Jake had enough. He could not work properly knowing she was always there. He could not sleep well, wondering what she wanted. He turned around in the middle of the corridor and walked straight toward her. She did not run or hide, just stood there with those silver eyes fixed on him. Jake's heart beat fast as he approached her. Up close, she was even taller than he thought, maybe 7 feet. Her blue skin had a slight shimmer like fish scales, but smoother. Her white robes were made of some material that seemed to move on its own, flowing around her like water. "Why are you following me?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. He had dealt with aliens before, but never one who seemed so focused on him personally. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. "You are Jake Turner from Earth," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Jake replied, "but that does not explain why. You have been watching me for days. What do you want?" "My name is Kira," she said, using the human version of her name since her real name would be impossible for human vocal cords to pronounce. "I have traveled very far to find you." Specifically, Jake felt confused and a little worried. The space station had security, but if this alien wanted to hurt him, there were many dark corners where no cameras watched. "Find me." "Why? What is special about me?" "I am just an engineer. You are not just anything." Kira replied, "You are the nephew of Paul Morrison." Jake froze when he heard his uncle's name. "How do you know about Uncle Paul?" "He died 5 years ago." Kira reached into her robes and Jake tensed, ready to run or fight. But she pulled out a small device that projected a hologram into the air between them. The image showed a young Zilani child, maybe 8 years old by human standards. The child had the same silver eyes as Kira, but her blue skin had patches of green and unusual coloring, even among aliens. "This is my daughter Lara," said Kira, and her voice carried emotion now, something Jake had not expected. "She is dying." Jake looked at the hologram, then back at Kira. The little girl in the image was smiling and playing with some kind of floating toy, but Jake could see she looked thin and weak. "I am sorry to hear that, but I am just an engineer. I am not a doctor. You need medical help." "Not me." Kira shook her head and the hologram changed to show medical scans that Jake did not understand. Zilani medicine cannot help her. She has a disease that affects only children born from mixed heritage. Her father was Kelvin, another alien race. Our two species were never meant to have children together, but we fell in love. We thought we were blessed when Lara was born, but now she is sick. Jake felt sympathy for the alien mother, but still did not understand what this had to do with him or his dead uncle. "I still do not see how I can help. Your daughter needs alien doctors, not a human engineer." The doctors on 12 different worlds told me she would die within the year, Kira continued. "None of them could help, but 3 months ago I learned about something that happened on Earth 20 years ago. A human child named Amy Chen was dying from a rare genetic disorder. Your human doctors could not save her." Jake remembered that story vaguely. It had been big news when he was younger. A little girl in California had been dying, and then suddenly she was cured. It was called a medical miracle. But that was a human child. "What does that have to do with your daughter?" Kira waved her hand and the hologram changed again, showing Earth medical records. Amy Chen received a blood transfusion from her neighbor during an emergency, and somehow it cured her completely. The neighbor was Paul Morrison. Your uncle Jake stared at the medical records floating in the air. His Uncle Paul had never mentioned this, but then Uncle Paul never talked much about anything. He was a quiet man who fixed things and kept to himself. That is impossible. Blood transfusions do not cure genetic diseases. Your uncle was special, Kira explained. He had been exposed to unusual radiation during a mining accident on Mars. It changed his blood in ways your scientists did not fully understand. His blood carried unique properties that could repair damaged genetic code. Jake's mind raced trying to process this information. Even if that is true, my uncle is dead. How can he help your daughter now? Your family carries the same genetic mutation. Kira said, My scientists have studied Earth medical records. Your blood might save my daughter just as your uncle saved that human child. You have the same special markers in your DNA. This is crazy. Jake said, running his hand through his hair. You stalked me for days instead of just asking for help. You could have just talked to me. In Zilani culture, we observe before we approach. Kira said, I needed to know what kind of person you were. Would you help an alien child, or would you refuse? As many humans might. Your species is still young and some of you fear us, I had to be sure. And what did you learn? Jake asked, curious despite himself. Kira's expression softened, though it was hard to tell with her alien features. I watched you fix a broken translator for a Therian refugee and refuse payment. I saw you share your lunch with a hungry Kelvin child whose parents could not afford food. I observed you staying late to repair the life support in the alien quarters, when it was not even your assigned job. Jake felt uncomfortable being watched so closely. Those were just normal things, anyone would do that. No, Kira said. Not anyone. I have met many humans who would not help aliens without payment or reward. You fix broken things. Not just machines, but problems. You help others regardless of their species. You are a good man. Jake Turner, just like your uncle was. Jake looked at the hologram of the sick child again. She was so young and innocent. Just a kid who needed help. But he knew nothing about Zilani biology, or what giving his blood might do. What if it is dangerous? What if your scientists are wrong? What if my blood hurts her instead of helping? It might not work, Kira admitted. But without trying, my daughter will certainly die. I have nowhere else to turn. The radiation that changed your uncle's blood is impossible to recreate. The facility on Mars was destroyed years ago. You are my only hope. Jake thought about his uncle Paul. The man had raised Jake and his sister after their parents died in a shuttle accident. He taught them to fix things to help others to be good people. Uncle Paul would not hesitate to help a sick child, human or alien. How would we even do this? Jake asked. The station medical center might not allow. Kira touched the device and the hologram changed to show documents. I have permission from the station administrator and the human embassy. They have agreed to supervise the procedure. We would do it properly through the station medical center with human doctors. Observing everything would be monitored to ensure safety for both you and Lara. Jake was surprised she had already arranged everything. You were pretty confident, I would say? Yes. No, Kira replied. I was hopeful. Humans are unpredictable. But I believed someone raised by Paul Morrison would have his same kind. Heart. Jake took a deep breath, knowing he was about to change his life forever. Okay, I will do it. But we do this properly and safely. If the doctors say it is too dangerous, we stop. For the first time, Kira smiled, and Jake realized how beautiful she truly was despite being an alien. Thank you, Jake Turner. The next morning, Jake walked into the station medical center feeling nervous but determined. The place smelled like disinfectant mixed with something sweet that came from the alien wing. The walls were white and clean with soft blue lights that were supposed to be calming for all species. Kira was already there waiting with a team of doctors, both human and alien. She looked tired, like she had not slept. Jake wondered if Zilani even needed sleep the same way humans did. Next to her stood a smaller Zilani who Kira introduced as Dr. Vex, their leading medical scientist. We have run all the tests, Dr. Vex said in accented English. Your blood is remarkable, Mr. Turner. It carries the same mutations your uncle had. The radiation exposure on Mars created something unique that can repair genetic damage. We believe it will help young Lara. Jake sat down on the medical chair that adjusted itself to his body. How does this work? Do you just take my blood and give it to her? Not exactly, the human doctor explained. She was Dr. Lisa Chang from Earth, someone the embassy had brought in just for this. The process is more complex. We need to filter your blood, extract the special cells, and modify them to work with Zilani biology. It will take about 3 hours. Jake nodded, trying not to think about needles and tubes. He had never liked medical procedures, but this was for a good cause. Will it hurt? No more than a regular blood donation. Dr. Chang assured him, you might feel tired afterwards, so we have prepared a recovery room. You will need to rest for a day or two. Kira moved closer to Jake, and for a moment he thought she might touch his hand, but she stopped. Zilani probably had different rules about physical contact. May I bring Lara to meet you before we begin? She asked. I think she should know who is helping her. Jake agreed, and Kira left the room. She returned minutes later carrying her daughter. The little girl was smaller than she looked in the hologram, maybe 4 feet tall. Her green patches were more visible in person, covering parts of her arms and neck. She looked weak, but her silver eyes were bright and curious. "Lara." "This is Jake," Kira said softly. "He is going to help you feel better." The little girl studied Jake with those large silver eyes, then surprised everyone by speaking in English. "Thank you, Mr. Jake. Mama says humans are kind. I never met one before." Jake smiled despite his nerves. "You speak English very well." "I learn fast," Lara said proudly. "Mama teaches me many languages. But I like English because it sounds funny." Even sick, the child had spirit. Jake could see why Kira had traveled so far to save her. "You can call me Jake. No Mr. needed. And when you feel better, maybe you can teach me some Zilani words." Lara's face lit up, which looked strange but sweet on her blue features. "I would like that." The doctors began preparing the equipment, and Kira took Lara to another room where she would wait. Jake lay back in the medical chair as they connected various machines to monitor his vital signs. The needle going into his arm was smaller than he expected. Barely a pinch as his blood flowed through tubes into a complex machine. Dr. Vex explained what they were doing. "We are isolating the modified cells. They are quite remarkable. They seem to recognize damaged genetic code and repair it like tiny engineers fixing broken machines." Jake smiled at that comparison. His uncle would have liked being compared to an engineer even at the cellular level. 3 hours passed slowly. Jake dozed off a few times, waking to see doctors checking screens and adjusting machines. Kira came in once to check on him, and Jake saw real fear in her alien eyes. She was just a mother worried about her child. Finally, Dr. Chang removed the needle and bandaged Jake's arm. "We have what we need. Now we prepare the treatment for Lara. It will take another hour. Then we give her the modified cells." Jake was moved to a recovery room where Danny brought him food from the cafeteria. "You are all over the station news," Danny said. "Everybody is talking about the human who is saving an alien kid." Jake did not want fame. He just wanted the little girl to get better. "Tell them it is not a big deal. It is a huge deal," Danny argued. "This could change everything. If human blood can help aliens, and maybe alien blood can help humans, imagine the possibilities." Jake had not thought about it that way, but Danny was right. This could open new doors for cooperation between species. 6 hours later, Kira came to his room. Her expression was hard to read, but she was moving faster than before. "It is working," she said. "The green patches are already fading. Lara's body is accepting the treatment. Her cells are repairing themselves." Jake felt relief wash over him. "That is great news." Kira did something unexpected then. She knelt down beside his bed, a gesture that looked strange for such a tall being. In Zilani culture, this creates a life debt that can never be repaid. "You saved my child, I will always be grateful." Jake felt uncomfortable with the formal gesture. "Please stand up. There is no debt, I just did what anyone would do. What my uncle would have done. Not anyone would help an alien child." Kira said. Standing. "You humans are special. You have been in space for such a short time, but you show more compassion than species who have traveled the stars for millennia." 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the medical observation room watching through the glass. Little Lara was running around playing with other children, both human and alien. Her green patches were completely gone and she looked healthy and strong. She saw Jake through the window and waved enthusiastically. "She wants to start those language lessons," Kira said, standing beside him. "She has been practicing English jokes to make you laugh." Jake laughed. "That sounds dangerous." "English humor is pretty weird." Kira was quiet for a moment, then spoke. "Your kindness has started something important. The Zilani Council wants to establish a medical exchange program with Earth. What you did proves our species can help each other in ways we never imagined." Jake thought about his Uncle Paul, who had saved one human child without knowing his blood was special. Now Jake had saved an alien child and maybe opened a door for saving many more. Uncle Paul would be proud, you know what? Jake said, watching Lara play. "I think my uncle would say we are all just people trying to help each other. It does not matter. If we are human or Zelani or any other species, we all want our children to grow up healthy and happy. Kira nodded. That is exactly what makes humans special. You see strangers and choose to see friends. You are young among the stars, but you may teach us all something important. Jake watched the little alien girl laugh and play with human children. He realized the galaxy had just become a little smaller and a lot more connected. And it all started with one alien mother desperate enough to stalk a human stranger for days just to save her daughter. Sometimes the best things happen when we choose to help without asking what we get in return. The day after Lara's treatment showed success, Jake tried to return to his normal life, but that was impossible. News of what happened had spread through the station like fire. Everyone wanted to talk to him, ask him questions, thank him, or just stare at the human who saved an alien child. Jake was fixing a ventilation unit when a group of Therian workers approached. They looked like giant beetles with their hard shells and multiple arms. But Jake had learned not to judge by appearance. The lead Therian clicked his mandibles, which Jake knew was their way of showing respect. You helped the Zelani child, the Therian said, in broken English. We heard this. Truth. Jake nodded, still working on the vent. It was the right thing to do. The Therian exchanged looks with his companions. Humans are strange. You help without gain. We did not understand this before. Now we think maybe we were wrong about your species. Before Jake could respond, they left clicking and humming to each other in their own language. Danny, who had been watching, laughed and said, Jake, you just changed their entire view of humans. I just gave some blood. Jake muttered, uncomfortable with all the attention. That evening, Kira invited Jake to dinner in the Zelani quarters of the station. He had never been there before. The corridors were taller, with curved walls that seemed to shift between different shades of blue. The air smelled different too, like rain and metal mixed together. Kira's quarters were simple but elegant. Strange plants that looked like crystal grew in pots by the windows. Lara was sitting on the floor playing with floating geometric shapes that responded to her hand movements. Jake, Lara shouted, jumping up. She ran to him but stopped just short, remembering that humans and Zelani had different customs about touching. Look what I can do. She waved her hands and the shapes formed into a small version of the station, complete with tiny moving lights. It was beautiful and complex. Something most adult humans could not do. That is amazing, Jake said. Really, you did this yourself? Lara beamed with pride. Mama says I am getting stronger because of you. Now I can do things I could not do. Before, Kira prepared food that was safe for both species to eat. It looked strange. To Jake, purple vegetables and something that might have been meat but tasted like nuts. As they ate, Kira told Jake about their homeworld. Zelan is very different from Earth, she said. We have 3 suns, so there is always light. The cities float in, the air held up by magnetic fields that we learned to control thousands of years ago. Jake tried to imagine it but could not quite picture cities floating in eternal daylight. Why did you leave to come here? Kira looked at her daughter. When Lara got sick, the doctors on Zelan gave up. They said mixed species children were a mistake, that nature was correcting itself. I refused to accept that. That is terrible. Jake said, how could doctors say that about a child? Fear makes people cruel. Even Zelani, Kira replied. My own family wanted me to let Lara go peacefully. They said I was being selfish, keeping her alive. But a mother does not give up on her child. Lara had fallen asleep on the soft chair that molded itself to her small body. Kira covered her with a blanket that shimmered like starlight. You know what the hardest part was? Kira asked quietly. Other Zelani treated us like we were contaminated. They worried that accepting mixed species children would weaken our race, make us less pure. Jake felt angry hearing this. It sounded too familiar. Humans had the same ugly thoughts sometimes about people who were different. We had those problems on Earth too. People afraid of others who did not look like them, or think like them. But you changed, Kira said. Some humans did. Some still fear aliens, but you and others like you show a different way. Over the next week, Jake spent more time with Kira and Lara. He taught Lara human card games, which she mastered quickly. Her favorite was Go Fish, though. She kept trying to make the rules more complicated. Kira taught Jake about Zilani technology, showing him machines that seemed to work by thought alone one day. While Jake was having lunch with them in the station park, an alarm went off. It was a medical emergency in the lower decks. Jake ran to help with Kira and Lara following. They found a crowd gathered around a fallen figure. It was an old Kelvin worker having something like a heart attack. Though Kelvin biology was different from humans, the station medical team had not arrived yet. Jake pushed through the crowd. He did not know much about Kelvin anatomy, but he knew basic first aid. Kira quickly translated as Jake directed others to help. The Kelvin had 6 hearts, and 3 were failing. Dr. Fax appeared with the medical team and took over. But he nodded at Jake. Good, quick thinking. You kept him stable until we arrived. The Kelvin survived and his family came to thank Jake. They brought gifts from their world, including a singing crystal that hummed different melodies based on the listener's mood. Jake tried to refuse but learned that rejecting gifts was a serious insult in Kelvin culture. That night, station administrator Marcus Brown called Jake to his office. Jake had only met him once before when he first arrived at the station 2 years ago. Brown was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Mr. Turner, what you have done has created waves, he said. The medical possibilities are enormous, but so are the political implications. Jake did not understand what politics had to do with saving sick children. Brown continued, Earth government wants to study your blood more. They are sending scientists. Other species are also interested. Some want to pay you millions of credits for blood samples, others want to kidnap you. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. I did not ask for any of this. I know, Brown said, but you have become important whether you like it or not. I am assigning security to you for your protection. And I am offering you a new position as medical liaison between species. Jake did not want a new position. He liked being an engineer fixing things, but he understood that his life had changed forever. Before Jake could answer, Kira entered the office with Commander Zex and several other officials from different species. We have a proposal. Commander Zex said we want to create a joint medical research station with humans and all species working together. Jake Turner would be the symbol and first donor for a new age of medical cooperation. Jake looked at all the important people in the room, then thought about Lara playing with her floating shapes, healthy and alive. He thought about other children who might be sick and need help. I will do it, Jake said, but I have conditions. I stay here on Harmony Point where I know people. I keep my job as an engineer when I am not needed for medical stuff. And any child who needs help gets it for free no matter what species they are. The officials looked at each other, then agreed one by one.